Much, Sir, and thank you for that very exciting introduction. My name is Chelina Bhodie. I am here to speak to you on what we did as the Gautrain when the world went ballistic. And we did what we do every day, and we operated trains. So without further ado, I'm going to get straight into it. So my presentation is going to cover the following areas. I'm going to talk to you about our emergency preparedness and response, how we prepared the Gautrain system, a snapshot of our ridership over the period, our business continuity planning, the lessons that we learned most importantly from the pandemic, and how we're going to future disruption-proof our system. So let's get straight into it. I think we've already heard exactly what happened to the world. We've heard, the other speakers come through about what's been happening, how we've managed through the pandemic. This is what we did. We assessed our organizational risk first and foremost. We formed task teams, to handle the pandemic, to make sure everybody knew what their role was. We activated our business continuity plan immediately, and we made daily changes to support our staff. We also made, took the lessons that we learned every day and from various forums that we were all in, from safety, from HR, and from different places. And we put that into daily learning activities for our staff. So our emergency preparedness and response started fairly quickly because you know that we all have an international complement to our business, which is RATP Dev, and they're quite connected into the European and global market. We knew that, we knew the seriousness of the pandemic, and our first responses started already on the 28th of February before the first cases arrived in the country. So what that meant for us was we had first, as the SHEC team, as the safety team, we attended a workshop that told us exactly what COVID was, how it's coming, how it's spread, because by then we'd already had enough information from the Asian subcontinent to show us what the virus was doing, the lockdowns that were happening across the world. Obviously, the virus had traveled then to Italy and parts of Europe, and things were getting serious. So we had conducted our risk assessment prior to the first case arriving in South Africa on the 1st of March. We also continued, to put our preparation and prevention measures in place immediately when that happened. So you would have seen on our platforms, on our TVMs, on our advertising, we'd already started communication and preparation for prevention of infection. So that is how we had first handled it. Unfortunately, the first case of COVID arrived in our business on the 15th, on the 15th of March, and we had our first exposure. We had to immediately evacuate our offices as well as activate our BCP immediately. Whether we were ready or not, we had to be ready to move and work from home and handle our system already from home. So these are some of the things we did. And you'll see I've got little anecdotes at the top there. Please don't be offended by them. It was just basically what everyone was thinking, what was going on during the time. So at first, obviously, it's just the flu, calm down. Nothing, how serious is this? But we planned for worst case scenario. So we knew that we had to maintain our productivity levels. We had to maintain our performance. We knew what we had to do. So what we started with was obviously planning our risk, seeing what our exposure path was. We had to reduce staff anxiety and uncertainty, and we built a communication plan around this. We focused on our staff because without our staff members and without internally, expanding into this and showing our staff, communicating and assessing the risk internally within our business, we knew that we won't be able to get the passengers the information and the safety measures that we needed without first putting it into our business. So we placed a lot of focus on wealth and well-being of our staff. We also placed a lot of focus on giving information from correct sources. So for us, we only used information available from WHO, from the NICD, and from the Department of Health, and we still continue to do that today. We don't take any information from any other sources. And we make sure the information we put out to the public has strong backing, has full medical knowledge behind it, and so that people are able to pass on that information as most correctly as possible. We also made sure that our employees were engaged throughout the process. That was critical for us. We had to make sure that during this time, nobody felt left out and left behind. And I'll show you how we did that going forward. We also have a good relationship with our concessionaire and our operator. And that communication channel had to go on throughout the process. So these were the imperatives of our plan. We needed to make sure that employee communication was of the highest standard. We had to make sure that employee wellness was taken care of, and we did that very well with our Discovery Wellness partner. So we had various sessions with them. We also provided support for our staff in terms of the work from home support guide. And then we also needed to understand that working from home is a different set of circumstances. So performance and deliverable management had to be constantly monitored. We had to constantly check in with our staff. And we had 5 crucial elements to our plan. So 5 key things that went into building our proactive management and support to our staff during this time. So a major part of it were these 5 elements: structure, performance, emotional support, connection, and physical activity. Because we realized these were key things that were going to, that were going to be missing from the daily interactiveness that we had in our office. So, when you wake up every morning and you go to the office, you have structure, you have routine. At a certain time you've got to be somewhere. You know what to expect from your day. Working from home, suddenly you're pushed into this environment where you don't know what you're doing. Not that you don't know what you're doing, but you don't know what to expect out of your day. Things change. The phone rings all the time. You are just pushed to be constantly working. So, we had to provide a balance for our staff. We had to understand, what was key, what needed to be handled now, what needed to happen. Are you connecting? Are you able to get through? So, that is directly linked to performance. How do we keep employees motivated? How do we keep them from falling into bad places? And we did that through emotional support. And with biophysiosocial support, or biopsychosocial support was key to this. We had a lot of first-line staff. We had a lot of front-facing staff. We had staff that were afraid. We had, passengers that were coming in from the airport. We had passengers coming in, from bus stations, etc. So they didn't know what to expect. And there was always this emotional instability. There's also a number of things that happen, during lockdown that didn't happen prior to that. Suddenly, you were stuffed into, your house with all your family members at once. You had to prepare 3 meals a day. You had to become an online school teacher. You had to become so many things that you didn't do before. And then there was also a large complement of our staff that also were alone, staff members that lived alone, staff members that didn't necessarily have someone to talk to or have, people around them, and they relied on the interaction of coming to the office every day. So that was also important. So I think we're all familiar with these famous proverbs. Can you see my screen? Are we all meeting on Zooms? Are we meeting on Teams? Can you hear me? I lost my connection. Those kinds of things. So connection was really important. And this is primarily how we run our business. We have an excellent IT support team at the GMA that made sure that we were always connected, that we were always on time. The communications and marketing team within our office were absolutely brilliant, providing us with, as well as our virtual learning and knowledge management platforms, they provided us with key support during this time, teaching us how to do things, holding our hands through a lot of things. And, with that, we had weekly check-ins, we had weekly meetings, we had things like town halls, and that constant communication with Manco and Exco across the project, with our concessionaire, with our operator. We always had to know what was going on the ground. There were times where, when we say we work around the clock, we work around the clock, and we move as fast as our train does. So there were lots of times where meetings would happen either from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night, just to accommodate people who were struggling with family commitments. We had to accommodate, the operators and the concessionaire. We had to accommodate a lot of things. So we literally worked around the clock, but also, tried to strike the balance. Now, in terms of actually preparing for, opening day, as you know, we were the only transport provider or rail provider that operated during level 4 of the lockdown. We opened up on the 4th of May. And in order to do that, you'll see, if you follow our Gautrain Twitter page, you'll see we even got our CEO down on the ground, sticking those decals on the ground. Every single one of us made sure that we put in the effort and we put in the work to make sure that the system works, because it was in our best interest. So at every station still today, we still have more than 6 sanitizing points, depending on the size of the station and where you are. You'll find that we have sanitizing points everywhere. We have still the screening of the passengers that go on entry, social distancing measures, those crazy decals. I have nightmares about them still. We also put in 8-car train sets across the network to make sure that we managed overcrowding and social distancing within the trains and buses. We also put in social distancing stickers in the trains and buses on seats, trained our security staff as well to make sure that social distancing was adhered to. Then additional measures that we used were deep cleaning and wipe down of stations and trains at all terminal stations. This still happens today. We still deep clean and wipe down the buses. And the thing is that you have to create a sense of comfort for your passenger, to show the passenger that this is what we're doing, so that they want to come back. And even globally, we found that the crucial elements for passengers returning to a system was the fact that they felt safe and they felt comfortable to be in a space where things were clean, things were sanitized, and they felt comfortable to be in the space where they were not at risk. And these are some of the measures that we took. These are some of our social distancing decals. This is, alerting passengers of where the train doors is, where to get in, and to allow passengers to come in and out at any given time. This is the deep cleaning that we did at the terminal station, still happening today. And this is an interesting glimpse of our opening day. So I'm going to play this for you. I hope the sound is...
Now we are about to get
The Minister of Transportation, Chelina Bhodie, joined the CEO of the Gautrain, William Dax, and the MEC for Public Transportation and Road Infrastructure, Jacob Mamabulo, on the Gautrain for the first time since lockdown to assess the passenger service provider's preparedness to operate.
What we have seen this morning is that Gautrain is ready. The CEO and his team have displayed to us quite impressive work. But what is outstanding for me as a Minister of Transport is the incorporation into the new normal of what we call new health imperatives. We've got a proper way of sanitizing, which is a booth, which is innovation coming into the system. It is very convenient. You've got it, you just go through it before you even step inside the train itself. So it's very convenient. It's something that we should be using. It is value for money, and that is what it is important. We've got to roll them out throughout the country.
So we've got to be part of the system which opens up the economy as responsibly and as safely as possible in this very risky environment. So it was very reassuring that he said he had made the right decision. We were on the right track, and he was right to open us.
To operate during this time. So here's a snapshot of our ridership. This is what we operated in the hard lockdown in level 4. You'll remember that we were not allowed to operate during the off-peak hours. We were only allowed to operate between 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning, and then 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. So This meant that we had to up our service and figure out what we were going to do, how we were going to carry out maintenance during that time. You'll see our peaks had changed, weekend service had changed, and our timetable changed. As the time goes on, and as we still continue to operate, we continue to change our timetable as per requirements. We also continue to change our requirements as per capacity demand. Okay, so you'll see that our rail uptake during this time. So our rail uptake during this time was, quite significant. You'll see that, every day we were increasing. The dips mean the weekends, but as you'll see that we did have a significant rise in passenger numbers over the time because we were servicing, passengers that needed to travel before and after curfew. We also service passengers from essential services. Now, key to this presentation is the lessons that we learned. And I can't overemphasize the importance of risk assessment being the ultimate tool. This helped us to find the gaps in our organization, map our exposure paths, map our exposure patterns, as well as give us the correct mitigation measures. So we input all of this data, depending on our hazard identification, inputted all this data into our risk matrix, and we were able to come through this with shining colors. So we also learned planning is absolutely everything. And it's never too early to plan. It's never too early to start your business continuity measures. It's never too early, to listen to the experts. So we knew exactly what we had to do. We knew when we had to do it. We also had to make sure that every staff member was on board. Every staff member knew what we were talking about. Every staff member knew what their role was. And again, that came through communication. Communication. Even when there was nothing to communicate, you have to communicate. Even if it meant just telling you what the numbers of infections were that day, wash your hands, sanitize your hands. That is exactly what we did. Then, future planning for disruption. We're going to continue our risk assessment. We're going to continue with our safety priorities, and we're going to continue to communicate with you, whether you like it or not, across all our platforms, virtual, in-person end stations. We're also going to make sure that we still carry out in our offices, in our, at our stations. We know what our passengers are comfortable with, and we know what they're not comfortable with. So within the GMA, within our GMA offices, we are still doing virtual meetings. We're still doing rotational staff basis so that we have a presence within the office. There are certain things that we cannot do, outside of the business or working from home, because we're now planning to move 50,000 passengers a day back to our glory days. And that cannot always happen, with virtually. So again, we planning to maintain our current safety and social measures on the train itself. So we've got, this is our system operations plan for disruption. Again, risk assessment. We also are continuing to support the GDOH in their plan to vaccinate. And sorry, just rushing through to my conclusion, my time is almost up. We know the importance of protecting our passengers as well as protecting our staff. We've learned that the hard way. We've learned, just like everybody else, we've taken the dips, we've taken the knocks, we've fought for survival, we've really tried our best. And we want to continue that. We want to keep doing the right thing, even when no one's watching. We want to do the right thing for our passengers. We want to be able to bring back the passengers to the system. We want to be able, like the rest of the globe, to be able to get to that 80% pre-COVID ridership rates. And tomorrow, Tsepo's going to take you through all of those numbers. He's going to tell you exactly, what our plans are going forward, how we're going to manage that. And, it's so important that we see what our passengers want and to build that perception of safety and to continuously make passengers see that we are serious about safety. And I think that's what helped us get to the success. And I think from the top down, it wasn't just the safety people that were hopping up and down. It was everybody in the business that rallied together, that made sure that we were able to open the system on the 4th of May at the, when the lockdown was lifted. So thank you very much to the RSR for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much to the organizers of the conference for putting up with me and my delays. And I really appreciate it. Please keep wearing your mask and please get vaccinated. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Chelina. Certainly, it is clear that without a proper plan, it becomes very difficult to manage situations like this. You've spoken about doing a situational review so that you could understand the nature of the beast, a risk assessment with mitigation strategies so that you can have a preparedness and response plan, the communication plan to ensure your employees are informed, ensuring there's information sharing regularly, keeping tabs on the health and well-being of the employees, and establishing support programs for them at work and at home. Certainly very enlightening, and thank you very much for that. It is now time for questions, and we do have two questions. One relates to your presentation now, and the other relates to Gautrain as a business. The first one comes from Dr. Mabila Matibula, who would like to know what you did with your employees. Since your employees were teleworking, did you induct them when they had to go back to the office full time? That's the first question. The other one relates to the business, and it says, will there be any new projects by Gautrain to cater for the other parts of the country's transport challenges, Cape Town and Mpumalanga? And that one comes from Gloria Mudisani. Over to you for the answers.
Thank you so much, Cesar. And I think I can answer the first one very well, and I can answer it. I think I can probably be here all day. I'll show you another presentation. But we definitely inducted our employees. Again, communication was the absolute key. So before we had to bring everyone back to the office, we were clear about what needs to happen at the office. We were clear about, how we're going to do this, what needs to happen. We have a system, that allows you into the office to make sure that there's not too many people that day. It's a system that you apply online for prior to coming to the office. We also check your symptoms, etc. But we have an entire campaign when it comes to return to work. We called it the Because I Care Return to Work campaign. We have, bi-weekly and constant messaging for employees that allow them to, show what's happening in the office this week, what type of activities are happening, and how we're able to accommodate them in the office this week. We also make sure that we check in on our employees. So anybody that's sick, and even people that have traveled out of the province, a lot of people are not natives to Gauteng, like myself. And sometimes we need to go back home to see our families, etc. So it's important that we, establish ground rules for those things. So every employee knows where they stand, knows exactly what to do before they arrive at the office. They know exactly what needs to happen. And before major lockdowns, we send out messaging. We tell employees exactly, what we expect of them during that time. And as well as after major lockdowns and when it's time to return, we, prior to a return to office, we send out a Because I Care messaging. We send out a Because I Care planning initiative and presentations to let people know exactly what's happening. We also use different platforms because not everybody's at their laptop at any given time. So we also use WhatsApp and other platforms within the GMA and on the system as well. I hope that answers your question. And to the next question, as you know, we're currently busy planning the Gautrain extensions at the moment. I unfortunately cannot speak for the rest of the country at this time. I do believe that there is a panel discussion with Tsepo and a few other members of the Department of Transport that will happen on Friday morning. And they will be able to give more clarity on this, on other provinces and what is taking place there. So I won't be able to comment on that at this stage, but please, can we have this question again tomorrow with Tsepo as well as on Friday with the panel? Thank you so much, Tisa.
Thanks, Chelina. I think the answer to the second question is more apt. I think the techies should be able to deal with that. Thank you very much. We're now going to move to, if you still have more questions that you want to ask, please feel free to continue to use the discussion tab on the right of the screen for those questions. We now move to the next speakers. It's these two speakers that represents the railway safety regulator, and they're going to be talking to us on human factors related issues. And the first one is Miss Kibabitswe Tlwaele, who is the safety inspector at the RSR. Kibabitswe holds a Bachelor of Honors degree in Human Kinetics and Ergonomics, as well as a Master's degree in Ergonomics. She will be talking to us on nutrition of safety critical grade employees. And soon after, we will have Ms. Tunya Matsie, a technical specialist at the Rail Safety Regulator as well. And she also has similar qualifications in human kinetics and ergonomics,